So how's it going, my comic chat armor? We're here today with Eli Shockey, the creator of the GreyLock. How you doing, Eli?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, man, you're my season finale. This is it.
Awesome. Happy season finale, everybody.
Yeah, man. It's been a hell of a year, I think, for everybody. You
Yeah,
know,
20 has been interesting.
definitely a great time to be reading comic books.
It is.
Uh,
There's a oh, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say there's so many books on the shelves this past, couple of months. It's hard to pick out, exactly what series to latch on to.
And I think every other month, people are saying that this publisher's going under or that publisher's going under. I
Right.
think it happens every couple of years. People speculating that
It
everything's
does.
going belly up, I guess.
Well, again, for some of these smaller ones, I feel like if you don't cater your library a little bit and you kind of just throw everything at the wall, that's how a lot of them just start going under because they're spending so money on all these different books. They're giving
Mhm.
every single person a shot instead of just saying, hey, this is the type of books you want to make. If you look at some of the companies, say Scout, let's say Vault. Scout they have their own different libraries for their own different kind of imprints, and then Vault, very much so, it's sci-fi, horror,
Yeah.
fantasy, and they have like one of each coming out every year. So I think that you got companies like that aren't financially struggling, mainly because they're not just saying, hey, here you go, here's all these different things, we're just giving everybody a chance, which there's nothing wrong with giving people a chance whatsoever. But when you're pitching books, you kind of got to look at who are you pitching to. You got to say, like,
Mhm.
this publisher publishes these kind of books, and that makes it easier for people.
And I think the profits with comic books are so razor thin, you
They
know?
are.
So tell us about the Greylock.
GreyLock. GreyLock's a dark urban fantasy. Pretty much if the Wire met Avatar: The Last Airbender and Dungeons and Dragons. It's about a human mage who's an outlaw called the GreyLock. Greylocks are a kind of a name that is given to outlaw mages. They're branded and they're kind of outcasts from society. So he is one of those. He's become a monster hunter by trade because of his place in society, and he's given a chance for the hunt of a lifetime.
Sweet. And you said this is going to be spread out through 6 issues?
Yeah, through 6 issues.
Is it going to all written and complete?
So yeah, 6 issues, all written and complete. We got issue 2 dropping February 14th. I believe its final order cutoff is January 10th for issue 2, and then a monthly release afterwards.
Are they going to collect it all in a trade when it's done?
We haven't discussed that, but from what my editors are telling me, most likely. Most likely. I mean, they do that with most of the Scout books, so hopefully mine's not the,
You're
mine's not
right.
that.
N- yeah. Um, is this isn't your first comic book, is it at all, right?
No, I was a Mad Cave Talent Search winner. I worked on Hellfighter Quinn with Adagun Ilhan, who, familiar name. He's the co-creator on my book, The GreyLock. Um, that book was then helmed by Jay Sandlin, who, great writer, great person. So glad that he got to, hammer that all out. Um, Adagun and Ilhan and I, we actually live very close to each other. So we became fast friends. We kind of just, ever since our, experience at Mad Cave, we just wanted to make books together.
Hmm. What state are you in?
New York, actually.
Nice. I know a lot of indie creators are in New York.
Yeah, something in the water, probably.
Yeah, it's like here in Florida, like you could throw a rock and probably hit three. You
Oh
know.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Um,
What is it about Florida and all the indie companies being down there? Is it because of the laws down there or something? Because I know Scout, Mad Cave, and some others have like their headquarters in Florida.
yeah, I don't know what it is about Florida at all.
It's a
Uh,
tax shelter.
right. Um, are you doing any signings the first of the year?
um, I don't believe so yet. I'm trying to work out some signings with some local shops just to show my support. Um, we haven't settled on any dates yet, so but look on my social media or Scout's social media to see where I'll be doing signings because we're trying to get those set up.
Do you have any signings at Scout planned yet?
Signings at Scout. I'm trying to coordinate the Comic Cons they're going to be at. Um,
Mm.
I know that I'm most likely going to be at the next Philadelphia Comic Con, which should be spring of next year. I know that definitely this upcoming next New York City Comic Con going to be at that one again. Adagoon and I were also at New York Comic Con this year with copies of the GreyLock. Kind of like a you know first preview, first look at the first issue before it came out. Like a week or so later. That was really fun. We met a lot of great people, and we experienced the circus that is New York City Comic Con. A lot of people.
Yeah, I haven't been to a big one like New York or San Diego yet.
It is very much human bumper cars. You know,
I, I think if I went to a big one, it would completely destroy the experience of all the small little intimate ones, you know?
that's yeah. That New York City Comic Con was actually my first con ever. So I'm excited
Mm,
to go to some of the smaller ones and experience that kind of environment because I believe that if I was at a smaller one, I probably would have been like, oh, fantastic. But you got the big show and you're kind of just overwhelmed by everything going on.
are, so when you said New York Comic Con is your first, is that your first Comic Con you've ever been to, or is this your first vendor?
No, for both. Yeah, yeah, it was for
Sweet.
both. Yeah, it was for both. I'm not a big crowds person in general. Um, just the ADHD. I get it very, just
Yeah,
overstimulated all day. But I braved the storm. We all made it through.
sweet. Um, have you been into any comic book shops yet and like pointed people to your book? Like, hey, I heard this Greylock over here is pretty good.
I did. I did do that. I got there was a good experience and then there was the kind of like experience. Um, I went to Midtown Comics. They had it. It was fucking fantastic seeing, like this big comic store. They
Oh
had
yeah,
the, you know, got to, just kind of like pick up a copy, slide it to them across the counter and then slide my ID as well and be like, hey. And then, I was able to, stealthily signed a couple copies before,
sweet.
yeah, so that was fun. I was gonna say I was able to just say to people like, hey, maybe check out that book. I heard it's pretty cool. And then one person was reading it and they were like, hey, what's up with this? I don't see any, this is the typical question, I talk about this on my social media a bit, like why are there no white people in the book? Which I was kind of just like, hey, it's a fantasy world, you know,
Right.
it's a
Like,
fantasy world. It's like, you may not see like you may not see in a few of these pages that there's not, but like, give it a chance, calm down.
yeah. I mean, soon as you got, I think like the fifth or sixth page,
Hmm.
the big splash page of like the city,
Oh,
that should tell you right there what type of book it is. Because
I mean,
bottom
for the
left,
most,
you got like an ogre drinking a Slurpee.
yeah, you got one of the yeah, exactly, and
You know,
GreyLock's like I believe he's pretty much the only human character in the book. There's really no other humans in the book.
I'm still taking it as a win. That's just a little right, little baby nitpick.
It is, but I love it. I love the book.
Oh yeah. So far, what I've read is pretty good. And you said issue 2 is coming out in February.
It is.
Did y'all? Why did y'all skip December? Because of the holidays?
I believe so. I also think that with Scout, I believe they have a deal with some of the retailers to keep issue 1 on the shelves for a bit of a longer amount of time, so that it can find its audience, and then once it finds its audience, you know,
Start pumping them out.
exactly. I think that they hold off for like a month before they just get the next issue in.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean,
works out pretty good.
it's unique. It's the first time I've done, had somebody have that strategy, but Scout's still doing well. They're still pumping out books. They've got,
I think they've been around for like 5 or 6 years, probably maybe
Yeah.
longer than that.
I think it's a bit longer than that, but they're going strong.
Yeah, I just recently found out about Scout probably 4 to 5 years ago.
Mhm.
Or I like some of their books.
Yeah, they're a great company full of great people. As far as making a book, they've been super supportive. They've really just let me and Adigun do whatever we want. We're just like, hey, we're gonna do this, and they're like, okay, go ahead.
That's what I hear. Everybody
running.
that has a book at Scout
Mhm.
just says that they're awesome.
They are.
Are you writing anything? Are you writing volume 2 for the GreyLock?
Yeah, I've been toying with volume 2 of the GreyLock for last few months or so, figuring out if volume 1 sells well enough, or we would go for volume 2, kind of trying to make it feel like a natural evolution of the story, where it would realistically go next, instead of what my fanboy self would want to do, because it's hard not to do kitchen sink. And when you're writing a book like this, where it's creator owned, and you're through indie publishing, you're always worried about, okay, this might be my only shot at this.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be tempted to throw everything in, because then you're guaranteeing yourself that you're not going to get another shot at it. I see a ton of people kind of get lost in that anxiety and just say, here you go, here's everything, and then unfortunately, the book doesn't do super well because it's hard to follow along the path.
Are we going to see other fantasy characters besides zombies?
So besides the zombies and the vampires, we're going to see, orcs, dwarves, elves. You're going to see a unicorn centaur, which I thought was really good. I was lobbying for that very hard since the beginning of the book. That there needs to be like a unicorn centaur somewhere in the book. Doesn't matter if it's background or not. Yeah, we kind of just, in terms of fantasy creatures, you see all different sorts of peoples and cultures and everything like that in New York City. So in this fantasy city of Manhattan, we're going to see all sorts of creatures. It's it's a melting pot. Everybody's there. It doesn't matter like what religion they are, what race they're from, or what species.
The girl throwing fireballs. Would you
Mhm.
say what is she, a demon?
She's a demon. Yeah, she's the mind witch. She is she's the GreyLock's Corey through this through this first volume. She is being a mind witch is a say it's kind of like a genetic mutation where you're born with the powers of telepathy and foresight. So it's kind of scattered throughout the species. It doesn't matter what kind of species you are, but it pops up every now and then, and it's highly sought after. I kind of said, what would a what would happen if, like every once in a while somebody was born with telepathy and foresight? What would the world treat that person like? And so a commodity essentially is what,
Yeah, right.
with the way our culture is, with the way, like we act around certain things, we probably treat that person like a commodity. So that's what we went with.
Or experiment on them.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
Either or.
If you had any superpower, what superpower would you want?
I talked about this today. It was more so like what D&D spell I would cast, but definitely speak with animals. Definitely speak with animals. Yeah, I just, again, I like hanging out with my dogs. it would
Yeah.
it would make the experience a little more funny, I think, if I know what they were actually thinking. Yeah, or scary,
You know,
You've taken me from my family.
right.
Yeah, exactly. That might be a little bit.
So,
That's a tough section.
dead or alive, who would you like to make a comic book with?
Would I like to make a comic book with? I'm trying to think. Alex Ross is an easy one, definitely. But Todd McFarlane, I think, would love to make a comic. But Todd McFarlane, I love his work. Was a big, massive fan of Spawn when I was a kid, and even growing up, it's the longest running independent comic series ever. Yeah. That's the guy's the guy's a machine. So I love to just be able to make a comic with him, kind of see what his process is, see what I could learn.
Spawn 350 is coming out in February.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, somebody's going to sit on the throne of hell. It's going to get serious.
I wonder who it
is. Right. What advice would you have for new creators out there?
Make friends. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have been able to make the GreyLock without Twitter or without, some of the comic book Reddits or anything like that. Learning from some of the other people that were moving up at the time, that were making themselves accessible. I'll try to make myself accessible as well, if anybody has any questions. But definitely when I was starting out, when I was trying to just, learn how to make a comic book script or learn what talent searches to apply to and all these different things, there were a good amount of people that, were very kind, or were just like, hey, this is what you can do. Exactly, when I say make friends, I mean Adagun Ilhan, one of my best friends on the planet. This is somebody that we created a book together, and we talk all the time. Share with Luhan, dude's awesome. Me and him talk all the time. Making friends essentially is, like, I would say, the best way to learn, because the industry is very small, very insulated. It's an unfortunate part where it's not always merit based, but on who you know. But it is good to know people, so go ahead and make friends with people, not as a transactional relationship, because everybody knows that kind of person, but just don't be afraid to engage in the community.
Okay. Is there anything you want to say before we go?
Pick up the GreyLock. Issue 2 is coming out soon. If you loved issue 1, it's only getting started from here. It's only gonna get crazier. So please check out the second issue. Yeah.
All right. I appreciate you taking the time to come talk with me.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
What? You mean you haven't subscribed to Comicchatauthority? Oh, come on. Subscribe already. What are you waiting for? It's no big deal. Like, man, don't forget to tell him to hit that like button. Yeah, that too. Just subscribe.